Hi, and welcome to the video today. Today we're going to talk about a couple of common woodwind issues that crop up, you know, for almost everybody at some point while you're playing your instrument throughout the years. Today we're going to demonstrate on the flute and clarinet, but the same thing applies to the saxophone too. We're going to talk about the mechanisms about your rods here and your keys. So the rod system, the keys, and a couple things called the springs that help our keys function the way they should. One of the biggest things that can happen, and it happens unsuspectingly to almost everybody at some point, is that one of these screws that holds our key mechanism in place starts to back out. And what I mean by that is you can have these little, and I'll try to get you a good view here, and I'll take a picture of this too and post it. But you have these little screws right here that work all the way through to hold parts of your flute or your clarinet keys in place. And these can start to back out, meaning they can start to come out on their own just as you're playing, and you don't really even realize it until a section of your keys falls off. And then you're looking at your keys and trying to figure out what's going on. And putting them back on can be kind of difficult at times. It's a little bit like putting a jigsaw puzzle together without the picture. You'll look at it, you'll kind of see how it's supposed to go, but trying to actually get it back into place can be kind of difficult and time consuming. So what you want to do is every day, just give your flute or clarinet or saxophone, give your instrument a quick one-over, just looking to make sure that these screws are in place. Typically they're going to be at the top of these posts, and you'll see them there. And if they're flush with the top of the post, it's good. This one right here has started to back out, and it's really kind of tough to see, but all you got to do is you get a little eyeglass screwdriver, and we'll put it back in there, and we'll just tighten it down, get it back in place. And now we don't want to over tighten it. I always go just till I feel the resistance and it's snug in place, and that's good. And then just keep an eye on it. Sometimes what happens is one will start to work itself out, you put it back in, all of a sudden it's working itself out, and it's never done that before. And then at some point it will just stop doing that, it'll just stay in place. The danger also is if this backs out far enough for these keys to fall off, sometimes the actual screw could fall out too. On our floor in the school with the tile floor, it's difficult to find, but typically we can find it. It just takes a little bit of careful scanning of the floor. If it happens in carpet, it makes it even more difficult, if sometimes impossible to find, until maybe a vacuum cleaner goes over it. So a couple things to watch there. But everyone should always give those screws just a quick once over and look, just to make sure that they're in place. If you ever need to use the eyeglass or the little screwdriver, of course it's in our tool case up on our sink in the classroom, or just ask for it. Sometimes I have it at my desk because a student has come in and asked to help get their instrument back in working order. The other thing that we want to watch out for is these little springs. They just look like small thin metal rods, but they're the springs that help make our keys function. So when we push the key down, the spring actually pushes it back in place to an open position or a closed position as needed to play the note we're trying to find. But every once in a while, these little springs can come undone, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to undo one here in this clarinet. And so you can see right here, this has come off of the post. All of a sudden there will be notes that won't play, and you'll start to try to figure out what's going on. All of a sudden my instrument was working, now it's not working. Well, again, just scan down and make sure one of these didn't pop off. It does happen occasionally. It seems to happen, again, kind of like with the post, with those screws in the posts. It happens seemingly like you have a rash of them going on. All of a sudden it's like, oh, this keeps popping off and it's never done that before. And then at one point you'll get it back into place and it will go away. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but you just got to look for it. And then all you have to do is push it back behind the post, and the key will work fine again. A couple things. So sometimes I've used a pencil. I use the eraser to help grab that post and push it back under, depending on where it is inside the instrument. Some are tougher to get to. If you have smaller fingers, you can just use your finger sometimes. With me, a lot of times it's easier just with the pencil. I just push it back into place, and it takes a little bit of work sometimes, and then it goes back in just fine. But it can pop out. So again, if your instrument's seeming like it's working, or if it's not working, first thing to do is to look and make sure that all these springs are where they're supposed to be. You'll see the little post connected to the rod that it should be behind. Again, it can be pretty difficult sometimes, especially in the flute. There are a lot of these springs in there, and sometimes it's really difficult to actually even pinpoint where they are or where they're supposed to go. But if you do run into trouble, first check your screws on there, make sure they're in place, and then also make sure all of your springs are in place. Like I said, for the most part, they're always going to be there in place like they should be, but occasionally it does happen. Like I said, it happens a lot all of a sudden. It keeps happening, and then it will go away, and sometimes forever. If it's a continuous, after a month it's still going on, and we're still having trouble with it, typically I'm going to say, why don't you take it into the shop and get an adjustment. There are adjustment screws on here that the shop can do to help your keys work better, seal up the correct way, and again, always having your instrument in good working condition makes playing so much easier and so much more enjoyable, instead of struggling trying to figure out and wondering if is it me. And a lot of times it's not the player, it is the instrument that can have issues, and they just need a little tune-up, a little check over at the repair shop. Again, some basic things I'm willing to do and help you with, but for the most part, if something major happens, if you have a big chunk of keys fall off because the screws came out, I would typically say just take it into the shop so that they can make sure all the keys are back in place correctly and adjust it correctly, because it's not just a matter of putting them back on, it's also getting them adjusted so that they're sealing up, so when you push a key down, it's completely closing off the opening, allowing you to play correctly. If you have any questions about this or anything about your instrument, again, please stop in, sign up for a lesson time, and see me. Before or after class, typically you know how busy it is. It's not really the best time to talk about those things, because there are some specific things that you need to have answered, and it's tough to do that in a 2-minute hurry up and pack while we leave and get information from me. So again, sign up for a lesson time, stop by before school or after school and ask questions. I'm always available. I'd rather have you take some time out and ask the questions and get it fixed correctly than to have you struggling in class and not feeling very good about your playing. So again, stop in and see me. I hope you enjoyed the video. See ya.